So today we will learn about rock properties. There are many properties, many properties, and hopefully we can discuss many properties in this class. Okay, when we are talking about rock properties, we first need to know about facies. Maybe you already learned about facies in geology class or maybe in formation evaluation class. And the definition of facies you can read here. This is from Wikipedia. Facies is a body of rock with, with specified characteristics, which can be any observable attributes of rock, such as overall appearance, composition, condition of formation, and the changes that may occur in those attributes over a geographic area. A facies is the sum total characteristics of rock, including chemical, physical, biological features that distinguishes from the adjacent rock. So facies, you can say a group of rock with similar characteristic, chemical characteristic, physical characteristic, and biological characteristic. Jadi batuan yang kita bilang sebagai facies A itu akan memiliki the same property, ya, chemical, physical, and biological property with rock that is in that facies. Oke, jadi kalau dia facies X, berarti semua rock yang memiliki similarity, memiliki kesamaan dalam biological, chemical, and physical itu akan dimasukkan dalam satu grup facies. And facies is dependent on sedimentary environment. Okay, so the sedimentary environment will govern the facies. And there are many sedimentary environment, lingkungan pengendapan, like lake environment, stream environment, stream here, you can see river, sungai, estuarine environment, okay, close to the sea, and then like Aeolian environment, Playa Lake, glacial environment, deep marine environment, laut dalam, submarine canyon, continental slope, many environments, sedimentary environments, which will govern, which will control the facies, which will control the chemical, physical, and biological properties, okay? And again, these are many other sedimentary environments. You can see gravel fan here for stream facies. You can see here river, the stream, estuarine facies here close to the sea, dekat dengan laut, we call it estuarine facies. And then beach, pantai, estuarine sand, and marine silty sand, something like that. Okay, sedimentary environment, lingkungan pengendapan. Okay, lingkungan pengendapan where rock was sedimented. Okay, ketika rock mengendap. These are other environments, and you can see the classification like lake environment, desert or desert lake, glacier, and then here tidal flat, okay, desert, delta, okay, you know delta, and then rivers, sungai, beach, pantai, deep sea, laut dalam, organic reef, okay, coral, something like that, which will be carbonate, which will be limestone, organic reef. Turbidity currents, okay, all of them are the sedimentary environments. And we can classify the sedimentary environment, okay, like continental, mixed or shoreline, shallow marine, and deep marine. Okay, marine or sea, ya, marine atau laut, can be shallow marine, laut dangkal, or deep marine. And based on the classification, you can divide them into sub-environments. For continental, you can say lacustrine or lake. Okay, so if you heard about lacustrine, this is actually lake or danau. Fluvial or sungai, okay, fluvial, desert, gurun, glacial, delta, beach, tidal flats, and further, you can distinguish based on this transport agent, and then sediments, and then the climate, iklim, that controls the sedimentary, okay? But of course, I will not require you to memorize this, okay? We are learning about reservoir simulation. We are not learning specifically about these geological topics, okay? So this is just so that you know about the sedimentary environment, because it will dictate, it will control the rock properties, okay? Yeah, other depositional environments, again and again, distal bar, channel mouth bars, tidal sandbars, they will control the permeability, they will control the porosity, okay? They will control the lithology, the composition, the mineral composition. So it is very important that we know the depositional environment of our reservoir. But it is not our main responsibility. This is the responsibility of our friends, geologists, mainly geologists, and then geophysicists, and then petrophysicists, okay? It's not our job to know the depositional environment. But it is good, very good, if you, as an engineer or as simulator, knows about it, okay? Okay, and then further, sedimentary environment, and then the grain size of the rock, okay? Ukuran batuan. So, yeah, if you're talking about geological phenomena, if you're talking about rock, we can say that they started from boulders, batu-batu besar. So you can see batu-batu besar, big rocks, boulder from mountain, okay? From mountain. And they fall down maybe, okay? And then we have boulders here with big size. And then maybe because of wind, maybe because of, yeah, wind or maybe earthquakes, they were transported, okay? They were transported into the sea. So you can see this picture dari gunung to the sea. Yeah. If you think about snow, salju, ya, berangkat dari gunung, bola kecil, turun, lama-lama bolanya jadi besar. But it is the other way around when we are talking about rock. Starting from big rock, boulder, terkikis, ya, terkikis oleh air, terkikis oleh angin, or maybe there are earthquakes, okay? Batu-batu ini tertransportasi. Dan seiring dengan dia jalan, bertransportasi, pindah, menggelinding, dia tergerus, makin lama makin kecil. They become smaller rocks. Yeah, you can see boulders, cobbles, and then gravel, and then sand, silt, and the smallest of them, you can say the clay. Okay, you can see. So from the boulders down into the clay. Boulders are big, clays are very small. Okay, but they are actually the rock starting from the boulder. Okay, yeah. So maybe you can imagine the transportation that happened, okay, 1,000 years ago, something like that, okay, from big rock to the smallest one. So if you can see this direction, you can think and you can understand why in the deep sea, di laut dalam, you have many clay formations, ya, because batu ini ketika jalan dari hulu, ya, dari hulu sampai ke laut, nggak mungkin dia tetap besar. If the size was big, then they will stop somewhere on the onshore. They will not go farther to the sea. But if they are small, then they can move, okay, maybe because of wind, because of the water, they will move farther, deeper and deeper into the ocean. So that's why in the deep sea, you will see clay formation. And regarding the size, you can see if this is the very coarse sand, okay, sand yang kasar, sand yang besar-besar, you can see the size, 1 to 2 millimeters in size. And then coarse sand, 0.5 to 1 millimeter, okay. Medium sand, fine sand, very fine sand, coarse silt, and fine silt. And of course, clay is the smallest. Okay, you can see here the size. Okay, very coarse sand, 1 to 2 millimeters in size. Clay is smaller than 0.005 millimeters. So you can see based on the picture only. Okay, the size is like, maybe it's like sun to the moon, the size comparison, the size ratio between the very coarse sand and fine silt. So if you have a rock composed of fine silt, it is very, very packed. And you can understand why rock with silt or rock with clay will have very low permeability. Okay, again, jika Anda punya batuan yang terdiri dari clay atau yang terdiri dari silt, karena grainnya kecil-kecil seperti ini, kalau dia jadi satu sebuah badan batuan, we can easily understand why the permeability is so small if you have clay. Ya, because ukurannya kecil-kecil seperti ini. Right? So that's why based on the size, you can know the porosity and the permeability will be small. And of course, jika kita tarik ke awal-awalnya, it actually depends on sedimentary environment. Okay, so sedimentary environment goes to phases, and then the phases will goes to the properties. So that's the chain, that's the flow. Yeah, it's another depiction of the size comparison. Okay, from here, okay, clockwise. Oh, sorry, it is a counterclockwise from the big one to the smallest one. Yeah, and then based on the table, you can see the boulder, cobble, pebble, granule, huge sand, coarse sand, medium sand, down to the clay or claystone or mudstone. Okay, so these are the grain size of the rock that we can find in our reservoirs. Okay, you can read it with me. This is about lithology, the formation or the pembentukan, the formation. Broadly speaking, sedimentary rocks are formed through the following processes. First, the consolidation of individual particles, okay, or grains derived from the erosion or breakdown of pre-existing rocks and minerals. Deposits formed in the manner are so-called clastic or detrital rocks. Typical example, sandstone and shale. So if you have clastic rock or detrital rock, they are actually from the consolidation of individual particles or individual grains derived from the erosion or breakdown of pre-existing rocks and mineral. Jadi asal mulanya kalau kita punya batuan klastik, ya, like sandstone or shale, plastic rock, dia itu terbentuk dari konsolidasi. Konsolidasi itu pemadatan dari serpihan-serpihan butir-butir batuan yang dulunya berasal dari pre-existing rock. Jadi dulunya dia adalah batu juga, tapi batu yang dulu itu mengalami erosion and breakdown. So pre-existing rock, thousands years ago, okay, they experience erosion, mereka mengalami erosi, and then thousands years later, serpihan-serpihan, the grains will consolidate and then form a new rock, which is called clastic or detrital rock, like sandstone or shale. Okay, so this is one process to form the sedimentary rock. and then direct precipitation from seawater. Jadi dari apa namanya dari laut, air laut, ada tuh mineral yang mengalami precipitation. And these rocks are referred to as chemical rocks. Like what? Like limestone and evaporate. Okay, so this is important. So now you understand the background, the history of your sandstone, of your shale, of your limestone and evaporite. And some rocks are formed from life activities of animals and plants. We call these rocks as biochemical rocks, like coral reefs. Okay, so they are actually from life activities of animal and plants. Okay, so I hope it's clear. Again, most important parameters when we are talking about reservoir. The first one is pore space. And then pore space is important to ensure the accumulation of petroleum fluid. Okay, maybe this page should not be here. Mungkin ini halaman ini harusnya nggak di sini, but it's okay because this is what we have. And the most important parameters, connected pore space to allow flow of petroleum fluid under pressure differential. Okay, so the pore space to ensure accumulation, which will be the storage, and then the connected pore space, which will be our permeability. So you can also say the most important rock properties or parameters are pore space or porosity and permeability. All right. And in conventional reservoirs, such as sandstone and carbonate reservoir, this connected pore space exists naturally and relate directly to reservoir permeability. Okay, so you understand that. But in unconventional reservoir, such as shale-bearing gas or oil shale, the pore space are not connected. And therefore, there is a need to induce connection of pore space through hydraulic fracturing for petroleum fluid flow. Okay, so in reservoir conventional like sandstone and carbonate, the pores are connected. So we will have natural permeability. But in unconventional reservoir like shale oil or shale gas, the pores are not connected. Pori-porinya itu tidak saling terkoneksi, so we will have very, very small permeability. Okay, we will talk about it later. Okay, so when we want to know the rock properties, we can do one job, which is called coring. Okay, we want to take the core from the reservoir. And this picture is from Mr. Esrafil Dizachi. You can see the comparison between cutting and the core. Okay, you can get your rock sample and then you can do experiment, evaluation, laboratory analysis with it. You can have either cutting, serpihan-serpihan yang kita dapat selama drilling, or core. Okay, yeah, you can read from here. For cutting, it is relatively cheap. Equipment readily available, routinely have drilling cuttings, okay, high penetration rate, results can be obtained real time. So this is what cutting looks like. Okay, so from the cuttings that you get during drilling, you can see this one. You can look the cuttings with your microscope and you can see limestone there, sand grain, consolidated sand, and then you can make analysis. But cuttings have limitation, like samples mostly are not representative, reliant on sampling, possible contamination from caving, lag time between the actual drill penetration and cutting reach. Okay, maybe you already know these terms in drilling lecture. Okay, should be supplemented with geophysical log, harus ada log kalau kita cuman punya cutting. Thin beds are routinely identified but not resolved. Oke, kalau kita dapat thin bed ya. Oke, so Yeah, this is what we can see under our microscope. And this is, of course, the drill bit, okay? From the cuttings that fall down during drilling, we can get the cutting sample and then we can do analysis with it. But what is better is actually the core, like this one. The advantage, keuntungannya, keunggulannya core, it provides a continuous stratigraphic record. Okay, so you can see continuous record stratigraphic kita. Provide representative sample, provide a sample suitable for engineering testing, okay, relatively undisturbed sample. Okay, so it's quite clean, okay. But the limitation, equipment not readily available unless drilling is contacted, slower, more expensive, okay, requires a water source during drilling, requires good technique to ensure proper core recovery. Okay, jadi harus hati-hati karena seringkali ketika kita ambil core-nya, ada yang pecah, ada yang patah, ada yang rusak total, sehingga it can be useless if the samples are broken. And to take that, we use coring bit. It is different from drilling bit. Okay, but if we see the core under the microscope, you can see something like this. Okay, so coring is very important so that we can know, we can analyze the rock properties. Yeah, this is the core samples for limestone core. You can see tectonic fracture here, the fracture. So if you heard about fracture, this is actually like this. Seperti inilah rekahan itu, if this is natural, okay? And again, this is the diagram of the coring tool. This is the core bit. And then within this inner barrel, you will store your core. This is the core samples. You can see, of course, you will not analyze all of them. You need to save them very carefully so that you can use many parts of it, many fraction of it for your study. For example, if you want to design acidizing, you will get maybe several grams, mungkin hanya beberapa gram yang kita ambil to do acidizing untuk mengetes HCl, HCl untuk mengetes mud acid, apakah ada dissolve atau tidak, okay? But you will not take all of them. You will need several grams, okay? Few grams. But if you want to do like, if you want to monitor, or if you want to analyze the permeability or the porosity, maybe you will take like this size, a cylinder of it. And then with that, you can do core flooding, you can measure the permeability, you can measure the porosity, something like that. But of course, you will use only parts of it, not all of them. Okay, so the length, the core sample length can less than 1 meter, but it can also 100 meters long. Okay, so long, based on your requirement, sesuai dengan kebutuhan, because it's expensive. And then the diameter, maybe few millimeters to 150 millimeters. Okay. All right. And then, yeah, if you want to do analysis for porosity, permeability, grain density, water saturation, you can do routine core analysis. It's quite routine. It's normal. It's not that expensive. But if you need to know about capillary pressures, relative permeability, okay, compressibility, wettability, electrical properties, fluid rock interaction, you need to do special core analysis, which is more expensive. But if you really need the data, of course, you can justify to do special core analysis. So ERCAL and SCAL, both of them are very, very important. Okay, so from coring, now we will talk about the lithology. Lithology is actually the type of your rock, jenis dari batuan yang kita punya. Itulah lithology. It's quite simple. Potential reservoir rock, like sandstone. So sandstone is a type of lithology. Okay, dominant with quartz, limestone with calcite. Calcite is CaCO3. Okay, this is what limestone made of, CaCO3. And then dolomite. Dolomite is MgCO3. And then this is the potential reservoir rock because of good porosity, good permeability, like this, sandstone, limestone, dolomite. Okay, this meeting will end in 10 minutes. It's good, it's okay. And then potential cap rock, shale, anhydrate, and salt. This is the sample of shale, anhydrate, and salt. Okay, and then yeah, if you want to make a recap, a report of your lithology along your wellbore, along your hole, you will make log like this one, lithology log, or we can also call it litholog. And these are the indicators, the sign for each lithology. Limestone will be like this, dolomitic limestone, okay. Dolostone, salt is like this, shale is like this, sandy limestone, sandstone, limey sandstone, and this is the log. But it's not wireline logging, it's a lithology, a lithologic log, something like that. Okay, so we have learned about lithology, we have learned about the sedimentary environment, and then the phases, and then the lithology. And the next one is about the porosity, but we will discuss the porosity and the other parameters like permeability, and then saturation, and then the compressibility tomorrow. Okay.